Uh-oh. Hey, everybody.
We're live.
We're live. Back again with Writing Raven Universe. And Janelle, I guess, is still missing. She's still in the process of selling her house and trying to look into another house before she ends up in the street. So don't
That could be a
don't
problem.
mind my niece in the background crying. No, but again, we have Ed Sauter returning. Actually, he's my first guest to return twice now. I figured Kendra might be working, so and today we're joined by Bryan Tann, one of my
Yeah.
favorite indie authors that I've read a story. It was left me with some interesting ending there
Which one?
for a character that I got attached to. So
Which one was that?
John Baker, yeah.
Oh yeah,
The-
the sequel's coming out. The sequel's coming out in a couple of months.
Okay, yeah.
the
Because I'm gonna have
sequel,
to read the
Unbreakable
sequel now because-
Baker's
Yeah.
girlfriend.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
Unbreakable Mind.
girlfriend.
Unbreakable Mind. That's coming
The-
out. That's coming out this year. In the next couple of months, we got talking with Richard Pruitt there, the head honcho over there at Random Evolved Media. Got to find out what our release schedule is going to be so we can get that out there. Because funnily enough, I've gotten a lot of anger at me for how I ended that story, how I ended Invincible Heart. I got a lot of folks
man,
mad at me.
that broke me. I was like, "What? Oh, I like this girl. This is pretty cool." I'm like, "Yeah," and then all of a sudden, I was just, "What the heck?"
Just like, what the hell did he do?
going
Oh,
on?
he's gonna like the next one, isn't he, Brian?
Oh, he's gonna love the next one. You know what's
no.
funny? Sharon, my wife, when she read Invincible Heart before I was finished with Unbreakable Mind, and she sells this story to this day. She goes, "He's lucky he wasn't asleep because he would have gotten punched awake." She said she looked up. She said she looks over at me and she's like, "You asshole!" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "You're an asshole." And then one of my other fans, who was my first accountability partner in DDP Yoga, she messages me and she goes, "You're an asshole. When is the sequel coming out?" And I'm like, "Yell at Richard Pruitt, not me." And she goes, "You're the one that wrote it." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I was like,
No,
oh, it like, uh-oh, did we lose him? I can't tell.
I don't know. He may have froze up.
Yeah, you got me there.
He froze up.
I'm back.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, sorry
Back.
about for whatever reason. I put the extra RAM in my laptop, and it still just wants to be a jerk. It's weird, man. Don't worry. If I do
But-
freeze, I'll be right back. Don't worry.
I'll be back just for a few seconds. What
In
now?
all actuality, when we were when Brian and I were going through the final edits on Invincible Heart, we were back and forth quite a bit, having a great time going through it. And when we got to Unbreakable Mind, we got into some of those conversations like I had mentioned last week when we were on together about why I put in a comment. I think this seems more like what this person would say. And he messaged me back saying, "Oh yeah, now let's put this in here." We just had such a great time working on that story that I'm looking forward to a possible third story. So I can get my hands on that and help him out with it too. I'm just looking forward to it because he's already told his publisher, "Nobody touches my books but Ed Sauter." You know what that makes me feel great.
That's exactly what I said. That was a condition of me signing with Random Evolved Media. That was my condition. That was one of my conditions. No one touches my books but Ed.
Oh, nice.
And
So
that feel
Richard,
great.
I was wondering who Richard Pruitt was. So Richard is the one that runs Random Evolved Media.
Yeah, that's why I said,
'Cause
yeah, he's the
him
head
as
honcho.
a friend. Okay,
Yeah,
He's
all right.
Richard started out, he was running TBK Magazine for years. And when Burning Willow Press had to unfortunately close its doors, he came to Ed and was like, "I want your authors." Essentially.
I said, "Okay, you can have all 100 if you get them signed." He goes, "No, I only want a few of them." I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
which ones?" He goes, "Well, which ones need a home?" I go, "All of them need a home." And he goes, "Well, I can only handle like maybe 5 or 6 right now. So I sent like 15 his way, and he messaged the ones that he was interested in. So because
Yep.
I knew William, you would be okay on your own. You'd
Oh
already
yeah.
been okay. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was the first one he approached.
of being on his own. He likes to have his hand held. So, I had Richard message Bryan. He goes, Bryan's such a cool dude. Bryan is a cool dude. So
I'm a cool dude until someone messes with my creative process and screws with me. That's when I'm not such a cool
or
dude.
stands over you with a bucket of ice water because you killed off a character or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, see, what's crazy though is that I was one of the first people that Richard approached, but didn't he have you, Ed, come to me first?
He did.
Because he thought he
And,
thought I
he
wasn't
didn't-
going to be interested.
That in order to sign you for the John Baker Chronicles, he also had to sign Kendra.
Yes.
It was
Yes,
up
he
in
did.
the air for, I don't know, maybe a month and a half before
Yeah.
he realized, wait a minute, this is a co-authorship? And I go, yeah.
Yes.
He goes, oh, shit. So he started talking to Kendra, too.
He basically, the way I've put and the way I'll put with anybody that wants to work with me is that if you want all of my books, because for one, I'm not going to be there are some authors that have certain books with certain publishers, and that's cool. It works with them. Me, I'm not really like that because I just want to have all my I'm not going to sign with anybody that I don't feel is going to have my best interest at heart. So the thing is, if you want me, you got to have Kendra. Because if you're going to have all of my stuff, you got to get Kendra's stamp on one series. And it's that one series that's going to control it. Matter of fact, I had to have surgery on my foot because in January because they found an abnormal cells in a mole. And they were saying, well, at your age, black men tend to have this worry about, skin cancer. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die of cancer. My grandfather died of cancer. I'm going to die of cancer. So I started having a will drawn up. And one of the first things I said was that Kendra, Ed, and Richard, because Kendra's my co-author and my sister, Ed is my brother and my editor, Richard is my publisher. Those three people are in charge of my intellectual properties. And when my son turns 18, he still has to get advisement from the three of them before anything can be done with my work. Now, once he turns 30, he has the rights to my stuff if my wife is gone. But with John Baker, he still has to get permission from Kendra. So he can't just sell my books off.
That was smart.
Yeah.
When I'm dead. He's going to have to get permission from Kendra. So if he takes, and that's just the way it's going to be, and one thing that I tell all new authors is make sure you have a good, strong tribe among you. Because this business is cutthroat.
Writing Raven Universe.
What's that?
Do what now?
That's the first advice. That's your first piece of advice today for writing Raven Universe.
Absolutely. Have a very strong tribe. Because
that's one thing that I guess authors don't usually think about is what's going to happen if they do, end up kicking the bucket and other work is out there. I guess that's one thing I've never thought about either. I mean, I was kind of thinking about it. I came to Ed when I was still under Burning Willow Press one time thinking, well, shoot, I might not make it. That's when I had all 3 heart attacks back to back. And
how the hell do you get 3 heart attacks back to back to back? What are you, the Chicago Bulls of heart attacks?
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah.
Come on, dude.
All those people around all the time, they're giving them heart attacks.
Oh, the photography that I do, I guess it pumped. It's you get into photography with glamorous women. That's how that happens, and you eat a few steaks here and there.
Yeah.
Hey, don't blame the bovine. Bovine ain't good.
But if you two remember, both of you signed contracts with Burning Willow Press, and in there was a clause that stated what happened to your property with names that you could list of who would take over your intellectual property in the event that you were no longer able to. That was something that I put in there because of another author who contacted me and said, hey, there's something really wrong with me and I need to make sure that my stuff goes on for perpetuity or however he in forever, as long as the royalty checks keep coming through. So I wrote up the clause and put it in there. It's kind of like a life insurance policy for your work. I believe Richard adopted that into his contract as well.
Yes, he did. Matter of fact, I've got to redo mine. I've got to redo mine with him.
I helped him create his contract as well, and I don't know what the final version looked like, but William, the one that you and Janelle had signed for allegiances, that's the way it looked. It had that clause in there for you to name somebody. If you didn't name anybody, then nobody got named. You didn't have to. You could always come to me later, but I didn't want it to fall off the face of the planet because, hey, the dude's dead. We can't publish it anymore. He doesn't have an heir, you know? So,
and that's my problem right now because that's the situation because I do everything myself. I mean, so if I do end up croaking, I know
get a will drawn up, man. Get a will drawn up.
Yeah,
leave it all to your,
I need to do what now?
Leave it all.
You keep cutting out here. I keep not getting the last word.
Yeah, you keep cutting in and out, Ed.
Leave it all to your niece.
There you go.
Oh, well, if any of my nieces, I don't think any of my nieces are into writing. They wouldn't know what to do with it.
Then that's why you do what I did. You get people that know the business and have them named as advisors, so they can't so they can't screw it up. I mean, honestly, I 100% trust my son when he gets older. It's just that he has to get older. So who else am I going to trust more?
Yeah.
And the thing is, Sharon is going to have good intentions, but she doesn't know the business. So I got people that know the business that I know I can trust to protect my stuff. And the thing is, I've gotten very fortunate to have people that I can trust because this business is we all know how cutthroat this business is. People will be buddy to your face and messaging you, but they will cut you up behind your back and will do everything they can to get ahead. They will gouge out your kidney.
Actually.
Yeah, but I mean,
but especially
well, I mean, not just authors, but I mean, I've seen some indie authors that have done some real underhanded stuff just because they feel like they might possibly maybe get ahead. And it's disgusting. So when you've got people that you really feel that you can trust, you need to really be prepared to massage that relationship and maintain it for the positive.
Well, I've actually thought about it and stuff like that. And, if like it's heart attacks, I don't know what's going to happen if I have my fourth heart attack. The third heart attack, had me on the floor trying to figure out how to dial 911 because the oxygen was gone. But I figured that I know Janelle said that she wanted to try to get a control of some of the books that I have because she understands a lot about the universe and we go back and forth. But at the same time, nothing against Janelle, nothing against you, Janelle, but she's also 70, 78 now. So, but they live for it, and her family lives like a long, long time. But
you will.
But I was going to say
in Hawaii, in a helicopter. So
I only got a bit of that. But no, I was going to say that my other point is that, well, most of the stuff that I do for the marketing is for both of us. I do the marketing. I do all the not only from the SEO, but all the keywords and and ads and design and book cover design and who contact for editors and proofreaders, beta readers, all that stuff I usually handle. And so my other go-to person was probably going to be Ed. If Ed would ever want to be like, if Ed would be interested, just in case I end up croaking and saying, okay, well.
Ed is just going to be, Ed is going to end up, he's collecting people's IPs like stock, man. Change his last name to Bezos.
Yeah. Is it too early to sit back and be Montgomery Burns and go, excellent?
Yeah, you're almost there, man. You're just about there.
Excellent.
In
the future. Ed Sauter is in the news today. He acquired another book, another one of his clients croaked today.
Ed's authors are just going to be dropping off mysteriously, and Ed's like, I don't know what happened. He said as he wears a 24 karat gold clock around his neck like he's Flavor Flav.
I have no idea what happened.
But according to my watch here, it's time to go.
Well, I longer need you.
Ed's going to be the godfather of indie publishing.
And people be coming up to him. You can see him at the end of a long business table, just sitting there with his hands. So, what story do you have for me?
You come here asking me to publish
this
your
is what
work.
The profitability of this is.
Be for favor.
You come to me asking me to publish your work. You don't even think to call me godfather. Oh man,
he froze now. Oh no, he's back. Okay, but so speaking of, what is that? John Baker. I was trying to get a little bit of history on your writing. So if that one was Kinder was your first book that you written?
Technically, no.
No.
Technically, John Baker is the third book I wrote. The first book I ever wrote was The Enforcer, my urban fantasy novel. And it's...
yes, The Enforcer.
It's will kick Ravens
I've heard
out.
a lot about this.
Yeah, and The Enforcer... What?
That's the one that he thinks that, his Bryce Creed would kick Ravens' ass.
Oh no! What are you trying to do? Instigate?
Well, see, here's the thing. I haven't read any of the Raven books, but I do plan on it. It's just, especially like right now, I'm going through school, so reading is just like not happening.
Oh God!
Plus, yeah. I can't defend my position without giving away spoilers of the sequel to The Enforcer, The Hunted, which I wrote a couple of years after I finished The Enforcer. Now, I finished The Hunted about a year and a half before or maybe it was a year and a half before I wrote John Baker. But I'd written these two books and I'd self-published them. And neither one of them were going anywhere at all. I had no clue how to do the marketing. I had no clue on how to do anything when it came to publishing. I didn't know anything. Matter of fact, after I wrote The Hunted and nothing happened, I quit writing for a couple of years. I quit. Actually, yeah, I quit writing for about 2 years. And I happened to get selected to do the audiobook for another author. And in recording the audiobook for his for one of his books, he invited me to write a short story for an anthology series that he had that Kendra happened to write in. And I tried messaging everyone that wrote in this anthology, and Kendra was the first and I believe the only one to reply to me. But we didn't really talk a whole lot. So I happened to see that I happened to catch a promo for her book, The Harvested. the first book in the Permutation Archives. And I told her this. I hate first-person narrative novels. I hate them because I get lost. I get lost in the narratives, you know. But
really,
yeah, it's. But and the thing is, I had this issue. I first had this issue when I read The Hunger Games. I would get lost in the narrative. Like, I didn't know. I'd be like, what? I'd actually have to go back like 4, 5, 6 pages. What the hell did I miss? But in reading The Harvested, I really got into it. And I didn't feel lost, and I enjoyed it. Well, before I quit writing, I had written 3 chapters of a story that I didn't know what it was. And it was a guy that wakes up in a hospital. He doesn't know how he got there. And I was mainly, it was going to be a horror novel about a guy who was trapped in a hospital and was trying to escape, and he couldn't trust his own mind. But I had no clue where to go with it. And I believe the first couple chapters of that are in Invincible Heart still. Mm-hmm. And I read The Harvested, and I'll never forget this. I was working security at a hospital about a quarter mile to a mile away from where I was living, from the house I grew up in. And it was in the summer. It was hot as hell. And I messaged Kendra on Facebook, and I said, hey, look, I'm on my way to work. I'm walking to work, but I need to pitch something to you. And she goes, okay. So I called her up on Facebook, and I said, look, I want to write a spinoff to The Harvested, or to your series. I didn't know it was a full series yet.
Yeah.
And I started talking to her about my vision. I had played in a Shadowrun campaign like 9 years prior. And I love the premise of that character and what that character went through. So I decided maybe I'll use that. That can go along with this, because the way that she had marketed the book was it was The Hunger Games meets the X-Men. And I'm like, well, if Mila is essentially the Phoenix, one of the most dangerous enemies the Phoenix had was Wolverine, because of Jean's attachment to Logan and the fact that no matter what she threw at him, he just kept coming. So what if the government decides to create the perfect killer to hunt her down? And I'm pitching this book to her, and I'm getting so excited. I don't even care that I'm getting fatter and fatter and fatter and running out of breath walking to work in 90-degree heat in humid-ass Pittsburgh. I'm so excited that I'm talking a mile a minute, and I'm walking even faster. And I pitched this to Kendra, and part of me's like, she barely knows me. There's no way in hell she's going to be down with this. There's just no way. And when I finally finished talking, Kendra goes, you've got to write this now. You have no choice. And I'm like, score! So I got to work, and I'm at work, and I'm just scribbling notes in my notebook. I had a little notebook that I kept in my pocket for incidents, so I could write what happened in the incident, so I could write my incident report. Yeah, I filled my incident report with notes on this book. And as soon as I got home, I just started writing. And I had not been that excited to write in a long time. I finished, and I sent Kendra every chapter, because I told her flat out, I am very big on continuity. I hate continuity mistakes, and these 2 series need to be in the same world, which means that everything that happens on your end has to happen on my end, and vice versa, because she was in the middle of writing. She was like smack dab in the middle of writing the Permutation Archive. I think she was on book 3, going into book 4. Book 1 of the John Baker Chronicles takes place during book 3, going into book 4 of the Permutation Archive series. And the sequel to the John Baker Chronicles, Unbreakable Mind, happens parallel with book 5. So I finished Invincible Heart in a month. I wrote the whole book in a month.
Wow.
That was pretty quick.
That is some pretty quick writing there.
I remember Kendra telling me about this Bryan Tann guy. I go, who the hell's that? And she says, he's this author that I'm in anthology with. He read The Harvested, and I go, oh, cool, glad he got it. And she goes, he loved it so much he wants to write a spinoff. I go, okay. And she goes, well, I told him he has to. I go, okay. You know, I was cool with it either way. They're her books. My biggest concern was at the time, because we were smack dab in the middle of our own publishing company, and copyright infringement and intellectual property was what I dealt with. I was very concerned that her ideas would be stolen. So I got to where I was talking to Bryan too, and I got the feeling for him. I was like, Bryan's not going to steal shit. He's too good of a person. He's just awesome guy all the way around. So I had no problem with it after Bryan and I became friends. And then, you know, it's been one hell of a roller coaster. But Bryan and I had the shouting matches. We've had the cuss out matches. We've had the "there's no way in fucking hell Skull would say that" matches from John.
Yeah.
Books.
We became brothers. We became brothers.
We did.
Like, Ed and I can argue about shit and butt heads because we're both very stubborn. But we have enough respect for each other that it doesn't feel like we're giving ground to the other. It's more we're understanding each other's vision to the point where our visions match up. And when Ed says something to me about a character of mine that torments my waking thoughts, I know he's not just being a dick and fucking with my... Can I swear? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that
I don't know. Have you so far?
No, I hadn't. But I know that I know that he's looking at... Ed is one of the only people I think that has ever understood my characters almost as well as I do, to the point where when he gives me feedback on my characters, when they're listening in, they're like, yeah, I like that. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
And
I will say that Ed has a good, I don't know, radar for picking up on characters. I know that
he does.
A lot of my stuff that I worry about for stories is giving the characters a 3D idea and making sure that people can either connect with them or either understand them and figure out where they're coming from. And Raven was my biggest concern because Raven doesn't talk very much, but she thinks a lot. And
Bryce
so trying to get her character...
Bryce talks a lot.
And trying to get a character that doesn't talk very much in order for people to connect with that character was one of my main concerns. But then trying to make people understand or have people understand why she does her thinking or certain things, Ed was able to pick up on it. And because my character's she's a strategist, I would say, I guess, and she takes everything into account. And she's her intelligence is very high. Do what now?
She's a master strategist. I mean, she's a general where, you know, most of the people around her are like barely even sergeants. She's a general. So, I mean, she knows, she looks at all aspects of what's about to come and picks and plots the best way. If you put her in the MCU, she'd be Doctor Strange going into the future and looking at every single thing and finding the best possible outcome.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to hopefully not do and create it where I get like she becomes too prescient and with the world, which in technically she can become like a almost not psychic. What is it called? Divinary abilities in the sense, but becoming prescient. Yeah. Well, she's definitely not, but yeah, that's the word I guess I would kind of sway her into. But yeah, you know, and Ed has that ability to pick up on them. And of course, I've sent him a lot of my books, and he picked up on for instance, was Elspeth and Leonette and Andrea. He was able to.
Ed is probably the fourth editor that I've worked with.
Sorry, guys, I got a phone call.
Okay.
Now I can't hear them.
Ed is the fourth.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shake your head, yes. I can't hear you.
Yes.
And my mic is not muted.
Oh. So you got a call. So he's probably going to have to back out and come back in. Hold on. Let me see here. Back out and come back in. There you go. But I will say this. I'll say this, though. Ed is probably the fourth or fifth editor that I've worked with. Maybe even sixth. Because I had people, editing my stuff and sort of proofreading my stuff before I even got into the circle that I'm in. And Ed's probably the best one because he understands my language. He understands Ed understands how I talk, and because he understands me as a person, he's able to understand where my characters are coming from. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think still maybe the internet
having
situation
issues. Yeah, the satellite DSL internet of South Carolina rears its
when I did the interview with them the last time, oh my gosh, I couldn't see their faces for a while. Then I told him just switch to the phone. It did all right, but I don't know, maybe he did say that there was a storm out there.
No, I keep getting phone calls, and I'm trying to. Every time I hit the button to decline, he calls right back.
Oh. Okay.
But yeah, that's
we're just giving you
brother-in-law.
But no, we were giving you props, Ed. We were saying how, before you, I had, and I mean, this was even back in my earliest days of writing. I've probably had close to between 5 and 10 editors, and Ed's the only one that I'll allow to go even touch my stuff. Like any other editor is like, if I were to have anyone else edit my books, they would have to come highly recommended by Ed, or they would seriously have to prove themselves, because otherwise I just wouldn't let it be done. And that's another thing that you really want to do as a writer, is make sure that you have a regular editor that you use, because you want someone that fits your style, because you want your books to have a little bit of uniformity to them. You definitely want that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't like,
and that's my thing.
Go ahead, Will.
Oh no, I was going to say that my main thing too is, that's what I look for was editors. I've gone through a lot of editors, and I still go through a lot of editors. I mean, Raven has gone through about 6 different editors, and 2 proofreaders. But Ed is the one that I usually send. Ed is the one that I usually send the books to, and then from there, because he, I guess, helps me make sure that the character is going the way I want them to, and the story is forming into the path that I needed to for readers. Once I understand that and make sure and are happy and can move forward with, moving to other editors or proofreaders after that, because he'll look at them and then I can decide, well, now I just need to go and get the words because I keep telling everybody, look, I'm a storyteller, not a writer. So I have to have people go in there, fix punctuation and any typos that we miss. But Ed helps me make sure to tighten it up even more. And my thing is that I think with everybody that looks, even editors, I know when I pay, if I were to pay $3,000, I get 3 editors. The first editor works on the line edits, then they work story structure, then line edits, and then proofreading, and that's 3 different eyes. When I go as Ed, he kind of does everything for me in a sense, and then I try to get a proofreader to go back behind him just to catch the ones, because I know everybody will start looking at words, and those words are kind of disappear into your mind because you read it so much. So what I like to do is at least still have 2 or 3 different eyes on the book. Ed's always been the one that I usually go for Raven, for sure. I when my 3rd book is finished, he's going to be the one that looks at it.
Always. I love that series. I'll always edit you, no matter what. I'll be laying here with no arms and no legs, and I'll get Dragon to do it for me.
Well, hopefully you'll like the third book, the final conclusion. Then I can finally move on to her in the present times. But she'll definitely is gonna have a different perspective when she loses her certain abilities, and her mind is really gonna take off with her analytical thinking. But as far as I don't know, I've read. I think you sent me an ARC copy of the Enforcer. I know I got through the before I got extremely busy with everything again. I got through the part where he went through the bar, destroyed everything, and then he went after God, what's his name? Cotton. And they got into a big fight with the first guy. What was his name again?
Cotton.
Yeah.
Cotton. Yeah. So he got in a fight with him, and that one was pretty cool because I like when like there's actual pretty good competition, and they started like getting into a nice little rumble tumble there. That's the part as far as I get. But what I told Ed that I like about your writing is the ability to capture the action, and because a lot of people say I'm very fast-paced with my writing, and I do a lot of fight scenes. My main things is fight scenes. And when I was reading yours, I love that you're able to actually intrigue my mind with fight scenes because not a lot of writers can capture it. But I read John Baker, and then I started reading the Enforcer, and I was like, ooh, man, I know I'm gonna like these stories because they got some action. The pace is pretty good.
I appreciate
it. Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what? I do is that when I come up with... Whoa, what happened? Why do I hear me? That's crazy. But when I am doing these, when I'm doing the fight scenes, when they're practical, I act them out myself from the role of the aggressor to the role of the defender. Because, well, you know, I've got a first-degree black belt. I've been studying martial arts since I was about 8 years old. So I try to come with that mindset. I've also, you know, fought MMA in tournaments and blah, blah, blah. So I really try to bring that experience. And when it's stuff that there's no possible way I could do it, I at least try to do it where it can at least be based in some sort of reality. So then I can make it so grand that it's a supernatural being that's doing it. I have to be able to see it in my mind. And if I can see it in my mind, I can make it come into words. I've always been able to do that. I've always been able to describe what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and what I'm seeing, and make it so you see it through my eyes. Like my mother used to tell me when I was a kid, when she would always say, write down, because she would always ask me, you know, when she was fine, when I was really having a tough time as a kid, and she would like, when she would be able to like talk to me about it, she would actually tell me, if you can't find the words to tell me how you feel, write it down. And then I could get her to understand me. I think one time, like, she and I got into a huge argument, and it was all because she wasn't understanding what I was trying to communicate. So I wrote her a letter. And from that day forward, even to now, here I am, you know, we're about 30 years later. She understands me now. As a kid, I used to always say, my mom doesn't understand me. My mom doesn't understand me. I wrote her that letter, and now she understands me to this day still.
Well, it's very interesting that how words can capture and make it more succinct, I guess, to where you're trying to put your thoughts into it, compared to when you're talking and your words can't get out of your mouth. It's like, I don't know what it is, but...
Or you're just so pumped up with emotion of the situation that you can't think about it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm Gemini, so every time I get excited, it's like my thoughts go, and I'm like, I can't.
I'm a Taurus. I'm crazy. I can't put my.
I'm a Taurus. I'm just like my friend Anthony. He's an Italian angry guy all the time. He's like, oh no, you're mad. I'm like, calm down, dude. It's okay. Yeah, and like how you said with like martial arts, right? I can think about it because I started well, I started with boxing.
Well, boxing
first,
is a
and then I went
boxing
to,
is a martial art.
like I said,
Boxing is a martial art.
yeah.
Don't differentiate.
And then I went yeah, and then from boxing, taekwondo, then Shina, and then capoeira, which didn't do capoeira very much after that because I messed up one time and landed on my knees on concrete, and then
So Mark DeCascos, you're not.
Yeah, and then with nunchucks, one time I was swinging them and they told me these are perfect. They'll never break on you. Okay, well I'm gonna put them to the test because that's what I do. I went to competitions with 2 nunchucks, and so I was doing it. And next thing I see is like, why is half of my nunchuck going that way? Where's the other half? I was like, it gave me a split second of thinking where the other half is, and then I saw it. Bam! Had like an inch.
That's why I prefer. Concussion. That's why I prefer either the bow staff or the tonfa. Because if you
I had all.
Sorry. Go.
Oh no, I was gonna say I had the bow, the nunchucks, the samurai sword, and the sais is what I worked with. I guess because I had a big old heroes being from the Ninja Turtles back in the day.
Yeah, see, I like the tonfa, nunchucks, and the bow staff. Those are my main one. I like bladed weapons, but they freak me out. Because at least like if you come at me with a bow staff or a tonfa or nunchucks, and you like swing, I can at least throw my forearm up to defend myself. If you come at me with a sword, I can't do that because now I don't have an arm, and unfortunately, my parts don't grow back.
Yeah, that's what I weirdly enough, after like nunchucks became one of my favorite weapons, but just because of the control factor when you do hit and the bounce back, I ended up switching to more bladed weapons. I did study the sword, but not as much as I would have rather had studied it, and it was weird when I tried to add it. I know what you can and can't do with a sword, but a lot of my fight scenes with Raven is two-handed weapons, and I use a long sword and a short sword, or a dagger and a longsword or whatever, because I know the problems are trying to use 2 longswords, and it's not the same thing. But one of my favorite writers is R.L. Salvatore, and he'll go into tumbles and twists and everything, but he makes it work because it's a work of art. So I decided when I was writing with swords, I'm not going to completely make it practical. It has to do with entertainment, and people are going to know the difference, of course. But you just got to have that fine line of making it between realistic and entertainment. Because in real life, the way you use swords isn't going to be like a dragged out fight. But it could be, I guess. But
most fights aren't going to be these long, dragged out affairs. Most fights end after like a minute, if you're lucky. And I know what you mean about that. Like Bryce uses I believe it's he uses a hunting knife. He uses a silver hunting knife. But he prefers using his fists. But he'll shoot a gun, but he likes using the hunting knife, but he prefers his fists. Now his brother Reese, that's a blade aficionado. He is a blade aficionado. Reese, you haven't gotten a chance to meet Reese. You haven't met Reese yet.
Yeah,
now, you'll like Reese. Reese is awesome.
He's a character. He's a character.
Reese is a very fun character.
We had a lot of fun working with him too.
Yeah,
he was a lot of fun to dialogue out and get, especially the legend of Billie Jean.
Yeah, there's actually a point in The Enforcer where Bryce and his brother Reese have an argument involving the Legend of Billie Jean.
The movie.
Yeah. The movie. The Legend of Billie Jean.
Oh, okay. So, I guess so he's the one with the expertise in the bladed weapons.
Reese is the master of the bladed weapons.
Okay.
I
the one that would probably.
Reese is your guy.
Yeah. Because the thing is, I got the inspiration for Reese from the character Tintin from The Crow.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he's honestly, for me, Reese is, in my mind, what you get if you cross Tintin from The Crow with Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and make him a biracial Irishman.
Oh, a biracial Irishman. Oh my goodness,
Yes, he's a
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, because see, Bryce is,
Irish over here.
yeah. Well, the thing is that Bryce is descendant. Bryce was born in Nigeria. I actually, and the thing was, originally it was Somalia, but I found out that my heritage is from Nigeria, so I changed it. And so he was brought to America as a slave with his parents. He was part of that. He was part of the slave trade, and his brother Reese was born after he'd been here. After Bryce was already a man, his mother married an Irish indentured servant, and they ran away together.
Okay.
So Bryce was already a man and turned when his brother came around. So he's his baby brother by DNA, but not by blood. And Reese is like, because one thing that I really try to do in the book, in The Enforcer, is here's Bryce. There's this guy who he can be very, very reckless and cocky, but he's got a lot of wisdom and a regalness about him. His brother Reese is hot-headed, arrogant, and pokes the bear all the time.
Like a little brother.
Like a little brother does. Like Bryce is, the way I describe Bryce, 6'4", 250 pounds. He's basically a giant. And he's all muscle. So, like, picture the wrestler Bobby Lashley or Ray Fisher from Justice League, who played Cyborg. Ray Fisher's about 6'3", 6'4", and muscular. Basically, picture him as Bryce, but with a little bit more bulk. That's not someone you're going to mess with when he's angry. Reese is 5 foot, right? Reese is like 5'11", barely 200 pounds, wiry.
Very wiry.
Very wiry. Hot-headed. And when Bryce is mad, Reese go, "Oh, you big lass. What you so mad about there?" and Bryce will get mad and be swinging at him. And Reese will be like, "Oh, you miss. You can't. What's wrong, old man? You can't hit me."
It's like an Irishman right there, eh? Hey, little lad.
And I mean, and he will. But no one else is allowed to mess with his brother, but him.
What?
Yeah.
And that's like and what's funny, if you do get a chance to read on, when we first meet Reese, Bryce is in a very precarious situation. And Reese is just like, "Oh, looks like you're having a hard time there.
You want some help, lad?"
Yeah, you want some help. See, that's your problem. You're always picking fights with too many people. You want some help? And the other people in the scene are like, "What is happening here?" And Bryce's like, "Will you just do something?" He's like, "Well, since you asked so nicely."
Yeah.
Like, that's literally, and the one thing that I try to do in all of my books is I want some comedy in there, because no matter what's going on in real life, there's little ha-ha moments that happen. Even in Invincible Heart, as serious as that book is, there are parts of that book where you have no choice but to laugh. Case in point.
Queen.
Yeah. When Queen shows up and when Ruckus shows up, you get the laughs.
Ruckus is my favorite character in that entire series.
Ruckus is such a fun character to write. He was such a fun character to write.
I told William last time on that I liked Ruckus because here's this old vet, don't give a shit about anybody, doesn't give a shit about nothing, thinks the government fucked him over. And I go, so yeah, I can relate. I feel the same way.
Yep. And he'll say what's on his mind. And he might know that he's outmatched, but he don't know he's outmatched. And he's going to tune you up before you finish him off. Ruckus don't
You might
care.
He's going to get a. Yeah.
You might beat Ruckus, but you're going to remember that you were going toe to toe with Ruckus.
Yeah.
He got the name Ruckus for a reason.
Right.
And it was fun
I know.
to expand. And it was fun to expand on that character in the second book, in Unbreakable Mind. It was so much more fun to expand on him.
I have to read the second book because Ruckus, he left an impression on me. Besides the ending, he was the other one.
Well, the thing is, I want to write a little something for everybody in my books. I want my books to have a broad appeal. I want everyone to have a character that they can relate to. Like Bryce and John Baker are your lead characters. Yeah, we're following their story, but you might not be able to relate to some of them, to some of the stuff that they are. Like if somebody is, autoimmune deficient, so they never had the opportunity to be the strong guy. Well, there are other characters in the story that are awesome as hell that you can relate to. Ladies, how many times, and this is for the ladies that are watching, how pissed off do you get when you're watching an action movie from another era and the women are just there? How annoying is that? Well, I've got female characters that got no problem telling the guys, don't you ever think that I need you. Because I do just fine on myself. You and your little dangling ain't the world.
That's right.
Because there's a point in time in The Enforcer where Enya when you meet Enya, she ain't got no problem telling Bryce where he can go if he can't get with the program. And Karen in Invincible Heart, she ain't got no problem telling John Baker what's what. And Queen tells John Baker what's what. A lot.
Especially when Gaia comes into the picture.
Mm-hmm. Which that's in book 2. And I even want the sidekicks of these stories to have their moments, because I hate the term sidekick. I think after watching the movie Sky High, I really hate how sidekicks are just sort of there to help advance the story of the lead character. And just the sidekicks are support characters. And they are major league important for the main character to get to what he needs done. And I try to show that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of connection with new writers when they're writing out there. I know they concentrate mainly on the main character. Weirdly enough, sometimes you can concentrate on main character and the bad guy ends up being the most interesting one. But
yeah. I wish I could have made Yuri more interesting.
I think Yuri was pretty interesting on his own. He had his own persona, especially, well, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a certain part in there where another character and him come face to face, and it's an all-out battle.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, shit, is this going to be the end of Yuri? But
Yuri you'll meet later on in The Enforcer. Yuri he's one of my favorite villains that I've ever written. He's one of my favorites. He's one of my favorite villains because he is interesting on his own. I could probably do a spin-off series of just Yuri DeRay.
Absolutely.
Because he's that interesting. Like here's the thing, when you're writing to have a good book, you have to have a compelling main character. You have to have a compelling villain. You have to have a compelling sort of you have to have a compelling plot device as far as what's going on in this narrative, and you have to have compelling characters all around. The way I look at it, your supporting characters should be strong enough to hold their own in another series where they can be their own lead character. Look at Hawkeye in the MCU. Hawkeye may just be a supporting character in the MCU, but Clint Barton can hold his own in his own movie if he had to. Why do you think Natasha Romanoff is so popular of a character? It's not just because Scarlett Johansson is a good actress or is beautiful. It's because this character is compelling. Why do you think people are saying that this Black Widow movie has come too late?
Well, not only that, but there's a lot of backstory to Black Widow that we just don't know.
Right. And there's a lot of backstory to Karen that we don't know. There's a lot of backstory to Reese, to Skull, to Enya, to Chloe, to Yuri. There's a backstory to Matheson.
So you're going into where they actually, because interesting enough, all these characters right here are characters from this book, this one book. And I branched off on them a lot of times because a lot of people were wanting to know more about Elspeth for sure. I constantly get a lot of readers that will message me and they ask me about Elspeth. And Elspeth, let me see. How many scenes do I have with her in the first book?
I think 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5 scenes. I mean, and you know, she only shows up for a little bit, but it made it where people were interested. And they asked me about her. And Leonette, not as much, but I got more questions about what their, I guess, who they were, because they're called Sheriffum in my world. And people were like, can you tell us more about the Sheriffum? And that's why I expanded with that character.
I wish I got more questions. I wish I got more questions about my books. That's the one thing. I don't get a lot of questions. I don't know if it's because no one's reading them or I explain things so well. I think it might be a little of column A, column B. Like not enough. I think that not enough people are reading my books to get that interested. But at the same token, I'm explaining it well enough that they're like, oh, okay. Like the only people that ask me to really expand on things are Ed and Kendra are the ones that ask me to expand on things.
That figures.
I don't know. And I read, well, it depends on who you're trying to get more questions on. If it's just solely for your Bryce Creed ones, I haven't gotten far enough yet. So
to ask questions. That's true.
With John Baker, I didn't have too many questions. Everything was
straightforward.
Pretty much answered. It was pretty much answered for me when I was going through it.
Except
I
what's
learned
next.
about and what happened in the end. That was my only big question that I remember asking you is why?
Yeah,
why did
I remember that. I remember. You know what? I do remember you coming to me about it. I was like, another satisfied customer.
Another satisfied customer. I was sad that night. I already had a picture of her in my mind, and I was like, oh, yeah, those are probably somebody I would do a photo shoot with.
Yeah.
What I really like, what are those memes that I see as a writer? Oh, wow, I love this character. And I turn the page.
And I turned the page.
You know what's funny, though, is that was a hard decision to make. But I didn't know how I wanted the book to end. I had no clue how I was going to end it.
You know what you didn't know how it was going to end, but what I get confronted with when this is more from like editors and proofreaders that I've sent the books from, and the very first one was West Texas Blood. West Texas Blood is a Raven novel, and that's the one that's actually going to start her off after my main 3-part trilogy. I don't know if you ever get this or anybody else gets it. I have main characters in them, and I only watched pieces and parts of, what is it, that movie where everybody died all the time, or the series in HBO with the
Game of Thrones.
Dragons. Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So Game of Thrones, they said that a lot of people kept getting killed or whatnot, and then I guess they also compared it to The Walking Dead, and I didn't watch.
Nobody's safe. Because nobody's safe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I interviewed the cast from The Walking Dead, but I never watched it as much because I never got into it. And
meanwhile, I'm binging Fear the Walking Dead because I find that to be a very compelling story.
huh.
Well, I recently just fell back in love with The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead as a whole. So,
Do you ever get questions? It's like I killed a lot of main characters off, but they compared it to like The Walking Dead or the Game of Thrones, and I'm like, well, I never even watched that and stuff. What are you talking about?
I mean, well, if you're killing off lead characters like that, yeah, because the thing is, there will be characters in The Walking Dead that you think they're going to really start building upon, and then suddenly they're dead.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Game of Thrones. Like, that first, like, I never expected, like, the one death in season 1 to happen. Well, I did because of who the actor is. And everything he's in, his character dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought that character was such a compelling character. It's like, there's no way they're going to kill off this character. Well, there he is.
Talking about Ed.
Yep. Well, I didn't want to ruin it for him.
Same name, but yeah.
Game of
Well,
Thrones.
no. For The Walking Dead, I was gonna say, like, I didn't expect them to kill off Dale because Dale was a very important I didn't expect them to kill off Denise. I didn't expect them to kill off Denise the way they did. I thought that she was starting to become a more complete character. I didn't expect them to kill Sasha even though she moved on to do the Star Trek show, so I kind of should have expected it. But even the character. Who's that?
Beth.
Beth, yeah, I didn't expect Beth. Lori.
And the thing of it is Kendra and I know the actress personally who shot her.
Oh, really?
On the show, yeah.
Tell her I hate her.
Everybody.
You killed my Beth.
Everybody hates her for that, but she's like, you made me crap, Diane.
Is her real name Chris? Because that would be delicious.
No, it's not.
Well, her name is Chris now. Everyone hates her.
Well, I was gonna. This is already 5:02, but my last question and that the reason I was saying that I was going to segue into the idea of like if we add those kind of happenings, I guess, in our novels. I know for the Game of Thrones and I guess The Walking Dead, it still kept people interested. For me, it lost me. If I had characters that were dying off in the series and I was watching it for some reason my attachment toward them were gone when they're dead, so it lost me in certain stories for the little bits that I watched on them. Do you think that also might happen in books, or do you think that's another way to attract new readers nowadays in this new age of death characters?
I think it depends on the reader, and it depends on how the writer does it. You've got if you're gonna kill an important character, you've got to do it right. You've got to give them the right kind of send off. You can't kill a character just for killing's sake. It's got to be important to the story.
Yeah, like killing Superman in Dawn of Justice or killing Tony Stark in Endgame. It has to be done right and done for a very strict purpose.
Well, I know they did it better in MCU than they did in DC. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's a good contrast, though, between. I would assume that the correct path to do it would be the way that Marvel did it, was the killing of Tony Stark, compared to DC was a little bit rushed.
The Joss Whedon cut. The Joss Whedon cut.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And wow, you know what's funny is that Ed brought up, this is the third time that Ed has brought up a movie, and this time he was 100% right. Yeah. It was in Dawn of Justice that he went out. Now, if we could see a better cut of that, I would like to see it better, because Superman's death in the comics, that was epic. That was monumental. Even me, as a casual comic book fan, that had my attention. Now, Tony Stark's death on the big screen was huge. And I think that with writing, you have an even stronger responsibility to do the character right than on the screen. you have
Absolutely.
a stronger responsibility, because on the screen you can sort of make it look good, but it not be good. But in writing, you have to make it perfect, because it has to be
not tell it.
right. And you've got to make it so when your reader sees it in their mind's eye, they have to see it as epically as if it were on a screen. But your words have to paint that picture perfectly. Case in point, as much as I despise her stance, J.K. Rowling Death of Dumbledore was fabulous. Now, when they took it to the screen, they dramatized it, but it was still well done. Or better yet, the way she killed Sirius Black was beautiful. I could see it. You know what I mean? Say what you will about her stance. She's a fantastic writer. She is a fantastic scene setter, and she's a great character killer.
Oh, alrighty then. Well, I guess that'll answer my question. I know we're 6 minutes into the hour now, so alrighty, everybody. I think we're going to end with that. Hopefully, we gave enough tips, or at least some information for new writers, especially with.
I was getting a little bit carried away.
No, it's all right. I don't really usually have an actual set time, but and we're trying to play around with it. We're new with the YouTube channel, trying to pick up some more subscribers and whatnot. So We're getting up there.
Subscribe, like,
we're
share,
up to 7.
Yeah.
But hopefully we get more out there, and just like try to play around with newsletters and promoting the new podcast me and Janelle have. She should be back within a month. Hopefully she has a new house, so she can get her better internet as well, because every now and then she'll pull an Ed. But
yeah, it does.
But all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in again. I'll have Bryan's website linked on the YouTube channel. And of course, Ed is, I don't know what Ed plans to do in the future. I know he has a work in progress, and he has some poetry out there. So, as far as you,
I'm revisions for a particular book, but I'm doing an editorial review first, and I'm still waiting on Raven book 3 to come to me.
Yeah.
And
fall.
Off camera about something that I had an idea about.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be able to get back to writing soon. This master's degree has taken up so much of my time.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, anything with the mind.
Yeah, because I'm supposed to have Unbreakable Mind book 2 of the John Baker Chronicles. That's coming out second quarter of this year, and then the sequel to The Enforcer, The Hunted, is going to be coming out fourth quarter of this year. Okay. And then my erotic thriller, Ed and Livy, is supposed to come out first or second quarter 2022. Yes. I have to get back to the edits on that. Ed sent the final round of edits months ago. Problem was, I started doing this master's degree thing, so I haven't been able to go through it.
Not only that, they didn't get it back to me so I can make sure he didn't screw it up.
Yeah, well, because it's stuck with me now. I'm the reason for that bottleneck. That's my fault. And then I believe fourth quarter of 2022, I want to have my horror novel, The Concussion, finished. And The Concussion is my first real foray into horror. It's a story about a guy who suffers a serious concussion, and what happens when the nicest guy in the world decides enough is enough.
Oh, yeah. There we go. That'd be interesting right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's mistaked you for the nicest guy in the world.
No. What do you think got me here?
That's true. Not to mention that I've also started laying the foundations for Bryce Creed Book 3 and John Baker Book 3.
Oh, well, I guess as Ed had said, maybe one of these days I'm working on one of my books called Aisha Storm, and she has something called the Stone of Realms, which has the ability to take her into different realms. And
Oh, he wants crossover. He wants a crossover into
he, want,
the Darkland.
he wants he
Got it.
wants a, he wants a crossover between me and Kendra and me and you. So he wants to see. I guess he really wants to see what would happen between Raven and Bryce Creed. So
That's going to be an
And
interesting.
Raven
do what?
and Robin from Follow the Ashes in Raven
Wow.
because
So
they're L.A.
We're going to have to do a DC versus Marvel style like they did with the Amalgam series back in the mid 90s. Set up a hotline for people to vote who would win.
yeah, that's what I was telling Ed. I was telling Ed, well, you know how they do it, right? They just vote and see who's gonna win. So it's like we're gonna get Ravens votes in, and we're gonna get Bryce votes in, and then I don't know what me and Kendra would do though. I thought we were gonna be on the same team or something.
Well, the thing is that Bryce and Raven would probably end up kind of being on the same side, but see, she would get sick of Bryce because if she's more quiet and strategic, Bryce talks shit. That's part of Bryce's thing. He talks trash, especially when he's in, especially nonstop, especially when he gets in trouble.
Man,
He talks trash.
So that would be the complete opposites. That'd be very interesting because she is very quiet. She's one of the old timey thinkers who are just kind of aloof and just kind of sit there and listen. Like,
Well, she's been around talkers before because she was around the Lobo brothers.
oh yeah, she was under. She got along with them too. So yeah, that's true. Especially with Domingo. Domingo is, yeah.
I talk.
But yeah, we'll have to do that. Hopefully, I can work on that novel so I can get it, and then my plan is to use that in order to jump into people's worlds.
The Univi, as they say.
Yeah, have some crossovers going on there. But
Nice, I dig it.
alrighty, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Of course, my name's William Ramos, WJR Parks. You can find me on Kindle, and I do have the print books and the Kindle books, and I'm also on Barnes and Nobles. As far as Ed, I know he has his poetry books on Kindle and Barnes and Nobles, correct?
Yep, and in print, both.
Okay. And Brian, where can people find you?
You can find me on obviously all my books are, you know what, I would rather everyone go to the Random Evolved Media website to get my stuff. You're just going to go to randomevolved.store and you can get my books there. But if you want to do if you want to go on the websites of brick and mortar places like Barnes and Noble or whatnot, my books are on there as well. But yeah, they're available in ebook and print formats. And I will I'm hoping within the next few months, I can start recording the audio of both books. From what I remember from talking to Richard Pruitt is that we would have the ability to sell the audio books, but it would be completely independent of Amazon and Audible. So that's something that I'm hoping to start doing as well in the next few months. Maybe once I finish this accounting class, I can start doing a few more things.
Yeah. Alrighty.
But we'll see.
Sounds
Because my wife and Richard, as well as Kendra and Ed, have said that only I am allowed to record my audiobooks. at least the Bryce Creed books. Only I'm allowed to do the Bryce Creed books.
Oh, there we go. You can you don't have to find anybody.
It's true. It's true.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you for joining us again for Writing Raven Universe. We'll see you next time.